right. Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. How's everybody doing this week? Good. I know we had a big milestone, big tickets, and I know Mariah just finished, right? You said you just did your graduation?
Yep, we had graduation yesterday.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Woohoo! Congratulations. Awesome. All right. There's a lot to talk about today, so we're just gonna dive right in. So first things first, we're gonna do demos, and then after that, we'll do the retro board. Viet will take over with the retro, and then we'll discuss some roadblocks that I know we all had this week. So and see how we could kind of come up with a plan. And then we're just gonna go from there. So for demo, does anybody or I'm sorry, before we start, we have a special guest here today. We have lovely Andrew. Hello, Andrew.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm just here to just, see the demo, see the progress so far, and yeah, then I'll drop and you all can work through do the work.
All right,
Welcome.
awesome. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Weston.
Oh, I was just saying welcome.
Okay, so who would like to demo first?
I think we could go first. Ours is fairly straightforward, so it shouldn't take too long, I think.
All right, I believe I just updated the settings, so you should be able to share your screen.
Great. Sorry, Mariah, are you ready to?
Yes, yeah, I just realized I had to clear my cookies, but I'm ready now.
So, okay.
All right, so I'll just do a brief introduction of our cute little ticket. So as a user, I want to see a welcoming prompt to add my first item if my list is empty to help me get oriented to how the app works. So it's pretty straightforward. We just really wanted to add a prompt to let the user know that they haven't started a list yet, and then a button to prompt them to get that list started. So I'll take you on over to the demo. Looks like you have an empty list. So let's start our list. And it takes you to add a new item. So pretty simple. And Tina's going to take it away with the fancy code behind it.
Very fancy stuff. Thanks, Mariah. So we really just, excuse me, just made changes to the list file and the list view. And nothing up at the top. All of that was what we had before. We just did some conditional rendering down in the return statement. So we're using that data object that's being passed in as a prop, and then checking if it has length, or sorry, it's a array. And so if it doesn't have any length, it doesn't have any objects in it, that means there's no token, because that's what is in that data. And then if they have if they have the empty list, then we see the message that Mariah just displayed. Otherwise, here we have our little second part of our ternary operator. Then it's going to go ahead and display our filter, filter the items search bar that we put in last week. And yeah, there's not a whole lot to discuss. I guess we one thing that we kind of discovered as we were writing this was that even though we're not getting into any kind of like styling yet, that there's a tone, right? Like when we're speaking to the user, it starts to feel like we're kind of already developing a little bit of a I don't know, a tone or a personality for the app. And so so we had a little like discussion about, oh, should we make him snarky, should we make him friendly, or her, or I don't know, like it just was kind of funny how it started to take on a little bit of a life, because now we're engaging a little bit more in a direct conversational way with the user. I think we had a brief discussion about whether wrapping this button in the nav link was the best way to go versus like using an on-click handler. And we did end up going with this just because it's very like sort of straightforward, clean, readable. But I don't know if anybody has more information about whether one would be preferable over the other. So that is about it. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I love that insight about the content being part of the sort of interface, right? Like you think about Craigslist or something, it's like there's not a lot of styling that going on, but they definitely have a personality to the way that, when you're setting up a new post or like just kind of browsing the site and stuff. So yeah, it's really cool. And this is kind of a simpler one, but I just want to understand like that they already have a token set, right? But they just don't have any items in the list, right? That's the state that the user's in here.
You know what? Yeah, I think I was mixing up. So there was another issue that was involving checking for the token, and in my mind I think I mixed the two.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. This is for
Okay.
the
Cool.
whether they've actually created the list or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like a nice simple solution to it too. Just checking the length of the list.
Yeah, I also agree with the kind of like the personality and the voice behind what you did. I do remember this was like we discussed it quite a bit during when I went through Collab Lab. It was like, what do we want the personality of this to be? And it's like it's fun to think about. It's it's not coding per se, but it is like a really important part of your product. So it is like, do you want to be serious or do you want to be fun or do you want to be like, what do you want this to be? So yeah, I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah, and interesting too, because we're two of us working on this week is just 2 out of the team of 4. So I don't know, for me, it starts to get a little bit like, oh, gee, we need to maybe have some conversation with our teammates and make sure that we're on the same page about, that personality, that tone moving forward. I think this is minor enough that there isn't anything too, strong, but it's just something that popped in my head as we move forward and flesh it out more.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's one of those kind of easily reversible decisions, right? So, and you'll have time the last 2 weeks of the project to really go deep into, how you want the app to come across.
I will have to agree. I really like the emoji on it. I was unexpected. I was like, that's nice. Just coming from me. I'm like, oh, it's cute. It's a little different, right? So it's not just black and white. So I'm glad that you both, kind of put a little bit of personality into it and then made it a little fun. And like what Andrew said, like if it has to be changed, it's not a major thing. It could be reversed a little bit. But I like that you guys put that in there. So woohoo, good job. Any last questions, comments with the previous demo?
One thing I'm still somewhat, it's like ambiguous to me is like the heading tags, right? Do we always, like you chose to do an H2, I noticed, for the message, and I'm not sure, is that I'm asking like the group here because I'm not sure, is that like the best use of an H2 tag, or should it be something different? Because the value of the H2 is generally like, there's some kind of semantic value to it. I don't quite remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, there could be there might be other alternatives that are maybe a little more semantic or might be interpreted differently. Like an H2 is going to be picked up by assistive technology as part of the structure of the page. So if that's what you intend, then that's great. If it's really just like just a message for the user to like kind of like normal content or something, if that makes sense, then then maybe something other than a header might be more appropriate.
Would it
guess-
be
oh,
better
sorry,
to,
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, would it just be like a P tag, a paragraph tag, or?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and if the choice was to use the H2 for the font size, then you can definitely like, I think like the P tag with styling for larger text would probably do just as well.
I feel like that's a great food for thought because it's not permanent. I guess for me, it's like I saw it, but it was more of like, okay, it's just a message for the time being, because this is going to change a lot while you guys, while you all like dive into the whole styling of the whole app, right? Like what will it look like, exactly how you want it to portray. So for me, it's like, oh yeah, H2, but it's not, set in stone. Nothing is set in stone. It's just kind of, for me, it's like a placeholder for the time being until we kind of get to that last 2 weeks of then you all have to decide exactly how you want to lay out that that beautiful app that it's going to be. But I love that Javiet brought it up. It's like, oh yeah, that is a good point. What is the purpose of the H2 or any type of tags that we use in our code? Any last thoughts or questions? All right, I'll take silence as golden, and I'll have the next team demo. Yes, and good job, Mariah and Tina. Woohoo.
Alrighty, I'll share my screen. Okay, can everyone see it?
Mhm.
Perfection. Okay, so for this week, our ticket wasn't as cute. It was a little more hefty. So we were tasked with creating, well, as a user, I want to mark an item on my shopping list as purchased so that the app can learn how often I buy different items. So in order to accomplish this, some of the criteria we needed to accomplish is for the list item component to render a checkbox with a semantic label. Checking off the item in the UI also updates the date last purchased and total purchases properties on the corresponding Firestore document. The item is shown as checked for 24 hours after the purchase is made. We assume the user does not need to buy the item again for at least 1 day. After 24 hours, the item unchecks itself so the user can buy it again. And the update item function in the Firebase file has been filled out and sends updates to the Firestore database when an item is checked or unchecked. And so Weston, did you want to demo how it works?
Sure. Thanks for the intro. Okay, can everyone see my screen and hear me?
Mhm. Yep.
Excellent. So we haven't merged yet because there's been an ongoing discussion. So you can see that I'm running this locally, and I'm actually going to move y'all over here. And then you should be able to see the Firestore console on the right here, which we're going to be using. So just to demo our code, you can see that we have our handy dandy shopping list on the left here. And we have a new checkbox next to each item that is being rendered. And when we purchase that item, we're going to check that. So you can see we have bread over here, and is checked as currently false. And when we check that, we see that it updates over here. And additionally, our date last purchased is also updated. And so we can go down and check a couple of more. And then as Arniqua said, part of our acceptance criteria was if the item was purchased over 24 hours ago, we'd like it to uncheck itself. So we can go ahead and change date last purchased to, let's just make it easy. And then when we rerun this, it should uncheck there. Let's just do that one more time because it looked like it went early. So you can see that it's unchecking itself when it's over 24 hours ago. So now we can dive into the code a bit. Arniqua, did you want to talk over the code generally? Did you want me to talk about all of it?
Yeah, I can talk over generally. If you want to share or show the code, I can go over to start. So yeah, as mentioned, first we needed to create a checkbox, which were required to create a form, and then an input and label to be able to display the item name as well as the checkbox itself. So for when a user clicks on the item to mark it as purchased, we created a handle purchase function in order to handle this, because obviously we will be updating the document in the Firestore. So initially we had the idea to set it up so that the user could like check, and if they accidentally check the box, they would be able to uncheck it, which is why there's a if else conditional statement. But later, we found that was going to be a little bit more complex than initially anticipated. So we decided to leave the so that they can uncheck it as a future to do item possibly. So in order to update the document in the Firebase file, we had to use the update dot method. If you want to show that, Weston. And for the, it was within the update item function. So to update the document, we needed to have the collection name as well as the document ID, and then also which items we wanted to update. So if you go back over to the other file, you'll see first we updated the total purchases. So you'll see total purchases +1. And then for the item data, we wanted to update whether or not the item is checked, which we would just change that Boolean to true, the Boolean value, as well as the date last purchase, which we just pulled in the current time to be able to update that. So that's the function that was used to be able to handle when the checkbox is clicked and a item is purchased.
Awesome. Thanks, Aniqua.
Course.
And just a note on a decision we made there, there's also a set item or a set doc function for Firebase that you can use, and we decided to use the update because that way you're not replacing the entire document, you're just updating a part of it. So let's go on ahead and go up here. We're gonna just quickly cover the functionality of the item unchecking itself. So you can see up here, we're passing in item in our props, and then we're destructuring it and pulling out is checked, as well as a couple of other properties there. But as we're loading our function, if the current item that's being rendered is checked, then we're going to go ahead and run the rest of this functionality, which checks to see if its date last purchased is more than 24 hours ago. And a big thanks to Yolanda for helping us clean this up. We really took the magic number lesson to heart and had pulled out a couple of these numbers and actually named them things like seconds and minutes and milliseconds and seconds. And thanks for helping us sort that out, because it makes sense that when you're working with time, there are certain numbers that are just commonly accepted. But you can see that we pulled out current time outside of the export, just so we're only doing that work once. And so our first step was to get the current time in seconds. So we're getting our current time, and then we're dividing that by 1,000, which helps us convert from milliseconds to seconds. And then minutes since last purchased is going to be our current time in seconds minus date last purchased dot seconds. And this dot seconds is because our date last purchased, which is again one of the properties being destructured from item, is actually looks like an object. So we can go back here, and well, it's not going to show here. If you console log it, it actually gives you an option to grab seconds or milliseconds. So we just opted to get seconds to avoid having to convert it. So we subtract those two, and then we divide by 60 to convert from seconds to minutes. Sorry for that word salad, but that's minutes since last purchased. And then this was a bit of a magic number, the number of minutes in a day. So our minutes before reset is, again, the number of minutes in a day. And if our minutes since last purchase is greater or equal to a day, then we're going to update our item with is checked set to false. And as mentioned earlier, part of a subsequent issue is going to be adding a little bit of functionality to this and help us calculate what the next date of purchase is. So yeah, and just a note about that, since we talked about it a little bit earlier, is Arniqua had mentioned that we had initially tried to handle an uncheck just because we all have the experience of accidentally checking something and wanting to go back. One of the issues with simply unchecking it is that at this point, the date last purchased has already been updated. And because it's simply stored as a string on the back end, we have no history of what the previous value was, and we've overwritten it at that point. So one of the things that we discussed was, if we wanted to have the ability to uncheck, maybe that becomes that field and the date next purchase become an array. So we have a history and you have the option of just deleting the last entry to go a step back. So I think that might cover it. Any questions?
Yeah, this is a much more kind of in-depth issue this week than the other one. Would you mind keeping the code up there? Because I'm
yeah, sure.
Like two or three things I wanted to say, and it's going to be easier if I can see it.
Absolutely.
First of all, like really good job, like great explanations, both of you, on kind of what's going on and the thinking behind your solutions and things. I love the use of a to-do here as like recognizing the complexity that unchecking causes. Sometimes a team will kind of implement it and they won't realize like, oh, in a future issue, you're going to need that date to be accurate so that the algorithm can kind of start to learn when the next purchase should be, right? So I like that idea of an array. Like when I originally built this app for myself, I came up with an algorithm where I didn't have to have a history, because I didn't want over time, like say you use the app for years and years and they had tons and tons of purchases, that the queries would have to deliver back a lot more data. So, but I think, to accomplish what you're talking about, you could just keep two values, right? You could keep just the previous one and the current, the most current one, and just keep that cycling through as just two values. And then you don't have to worry about it scaling up over time. What was the other thing I was going to say? Can you scroll up a little bit? Oh yeah. So I'd be really curious. I actually don't know when that current time is going to execute the new date. Like, is it when the app loads? Is it every time you go to that view? Current time, you might you might just test it out, see like when, like, I don't know if anybody knows kind of off the top of their head how often that runs, but it might not always be the value you want it to be. Like if you're reloading the page, you're going to get a pretty current time, but if you had the app open for a couple of days, maybe that only has ever executed once, but I don't actually honestly know. Yeah. So it might be worth just trying to, kind of figuring that out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I guess we had made the decision to pull it out of the function because then it's only doing that work once, but didn't think about the side effect of, if someone has, as you said, has it open for a while, that's now old information. So
yeah, I like that instinct, like of trying to do less work in the, kind of less computational work. But you may want to be making that call in the context of whatever the thing is that needs the information, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So would you just put it down here in the main body of the function, or?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I guess it's when do you need to know the current time? Like, what does current time sort of mean? Like, I guess, yeah, if you're using it there, I guess in the body of the function, you would need it there.
I guess to your point, if someone's had the app open on their screen for 2 days and then checks an item, even if it's here in the main body, it's still likely going to be old. So you really need it, if it's going to be totally up to date, you need it in the function or
Like in the
the
handle purchase
function itself.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. That's a great point.
Nice job, though. It really, I mean, it's clear that you both like understand what's going on, and you know, this was a pretty complex one to work through. So well done.
Yeah, sorry. I think this handling date time, we talked about this yesterday during office hours, but it is like super complicated, and when you're not used to looking at timestamps or like milliseconds, it gets super confusing. I do like the fact that you did refactor the 1,000 and just left the 1,000 and the 60, because those are, I wouldn't say those qualify as matching numbers, because we understand what that means, right? Like anybody, I mean, most people who look at this code would understand that, you know, timestamps are in milliseconds, and you know there's 60 seconds in minutes and hours. So like those are situations where I think we can kind of, you know, it's like it's not technically a magic number because we have a general understanding of that. So like, yeah, I think that refactor makes this a lot more readable. And yeah, also is like way to back out of the work that you kind of like dove into on the unchecked feature that then was like, I saw the conversation happening throughout the week, and I thought that like what you all had discussed was like really, really great as a team. But yeah, I do think that the decision to kind of pull that chunk of code out for now was a good idea, because those, like, you know, is with those unintended side effects of like, okay, if we keep checking and unchecking, we're going to have like a very inaccurate timestamp about of like when the next purchase date is. But yeah, overall, this is like a pretty chunky issue, and you all you both did like a really good job with it.
Awesome. Thanks for the feedback.
Yes, good job, you both. That I remember that's working with time was a struggle for me when I had to do that ticket. It just does, my brain's like, oh, that's so confusing. Why is it in, you know, milliseconds and seconds? The computer doesn't see the date how we see it. You know, it's not easy as month, day, and year. It's by like seconds, milliseconds, and minutes. And I'm like, that's a lot of information to process. So it was tough for me to process it when I believe me and my partner had this ticket, and I was just like, oh, and I had to rely on my partner, like break it down, like, hey, I still don't quite get it. Can you explain it to me more, you know, over and over again? I was definitely one of the Collabbies, like, all right, one more time. I'm so sorry, just one more time, like show it to me, because it just didn't click. And that's okay. That's sometimes, like, you know, I've talked to other developers, time and date is not their friend. They're like, oh, what? No, like I'd rather work on something else than with date and time, because it's not as fluid as a you know, for our eyes. We're like, oh, it's just a calendar date, and we're like, no, it's not just the calendar date. It's a lot more than that. But yes, fantastic job. That is a ginormous ticket. That is not an easy task to do, and anything that deals with time is difficult. I hope that, you know, I love to see the discussion, and I'm glad that you all like reached out, you know, saying, hey, what do you think of this? We want to do this way. And you know, I love the idea of like, oh, I accidentally check it, I want to uncheck it, you know, and I totally get that. And I was like, yeah, but I was like, oh no, then it goes into that rabbit hole of inaccurate information in that database. But I do love the to-do, the comment, and I like the array idea. Like I said, there's many multiple ways to handle that. Because I was like thinking in the back of my mind, like if I had to deal with this, what would I do? But you know, what I do is like a set timeout, like delay it until it updates the database, you know, in X, Y, and Z. But like I said, there's no right or wrong way. As a team, you guys could, you know, figure out how to tackle it, and just be careful with the to do. I don't want you all to feel overwhelmed by that last 2 weeks to accomplish all of that to do. I know you all started the documentation. I don't know, I haven't looked at it at all. But I know throughout the weeks, you guys, you know, you all were talking about like, hey, let's add that to the to do. And that's fantastic. Just be careful for that last 2 weeks. You don't feel overwhelmed of like, okay, this is what, you know, we want all of this, and that's fantastic. But, you know, you got to look at the bigger picture. This is the time frame. You know, you have 2 weeks to not only work on the front end aspect of the app, you know, but you also want to add these new features, and adding anything new to an app or, you know, to a code, it might break something. So then you have to think in consideration, okay, if it breaks, what happens now? Do we have a backup plan, or do we have enough time to fix that, you know, that error or that bug? So just keep that in mind. But that was kind of what my little 2 cents. But fantastic job, Weston and Arniqua. Like, that is good job. Big props. And I will merge it. It seems like it's good with the updated code. And after this our meetup, then I can definitely do that. Any other questions, concerns from the demo?
I have a question. So great job, like everybody else said, and I know I already commented like, yay. I felt really bad about how the imbalance of the issues this week. I mean, Mariah and I really had a very easy task, and you guys had like a very difficult task. So thank you for doing the heavy lifting this week. I think it was also kind of nice because I was trying to recover from being sick, and Mariah was having her last week of boot camp. So I know we really appreciated you know, not having like a super hard one, but anyway, so thank you. But my question was, okay, so when you guys figured out the time, the whole time thing that we were just talking about, when I saw something about like after 24 hours such and such happens, my mind immediately went to like setting a timer and using a set timeout. And like I haven't thought through whether that would work, whether that would like you know, how it would work in this situation. But I just wondered if like kind of how you came to decide on like the way that you did it, and if set timeout was something like you entertained the thought of, or if mentors maybe you have some like immediate thoughts about, you know, no, that would not be a good way to go because ABCD. Yeah.
It's a really good question. Because you know, if you just had the app sitting there and 24 hours went by or something, would things just automatically uncheck? I don't think so, right? Just trying to run the program in my head, like I don't like it would. You'd have to take some action to reload, you know, sort of reload the view or something for that to happen, I think. So, but you know, like, is that an edge case? Like, is it worth spending time on? You know, but it's a really good. It's a good insight. And maybe it's something where, you know, like to make the app really polished and like handle the edge cases and stuff, you kind of implement something. But you know, it's like a trade-off. You know, there's going to be time invested in trying to figure out a solution, implementing it, and all those things.
So are you saying it would only, if you use a timeout, it would only run like when your app is open and active, and so it would become like ineffective if you close it? Or
no, I guess what I'm saying, like I don't know if a set timeout wouldn't necessarily be how I would do it. I would probably have some kind of loop where it would be checking, like kind of doing something to check the values every minute or every, you know, at some interval, and then you then uncheck things that are past 24 hours or something like that.
I see.
So maybe a set interval instead of set timeout, but
yeah.
But like I'm saying, you know, if you're actively using the app and you're kind of, you know, adding items, you're checking things and that kind of thing, like it probably, and then you close the app and the next time you go shopping, or you know what I mean, like you're not going to really probably need it in most cases. Is why I was calling it an edge case. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Nice job, everybody. Heed Yolanda's words here. It's as someone who's been through it and probably felt a little bit of that pain in the last 2 weeks of this flurry of activity and trying to get a bunch of things done. That I mean, it sounds like, we pick a design direction, we do some CSS, it shouldn't be that hard. But there's a lot of decisions to be made and a lot of little, you know, pieces of the app that you want to make polished there at the end. So, you know, there are teams that, you know, keep working on their apps after Collab Lab's done too. So, you know, if you're really, you know, you're kind of really passionate about getting some of those features in, you can, you know, there's nothing to stop you from keeping working on it. But I'm going to drop, but it's been lovely. It's like great seeing y'all in action, kind of doing the work and everything. Really, really good job love to hear kind of how the team is working together and communicating. So, I'll see you on Slack, but feel free to if we haven't already connected on LinkedIn and stuff, to do that. Happy to help with those job searches however I can. So you'll probably see me next at your last call. I like going around and seeing the final product.
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. See you.
Woohoo. Seriously, everyone, fantastic job. And just it's a big demo. You guys, you killed it. And it was nice that Andrew was able to see what you all have been working on. So now well, before I move on, any last questions, comments, concerns before we go to the retro? And if not now, you all could always bring it up later in our conversation or in Slack. That is totally fine. I'll take the silence as golden. We're all good to go for now. And I will pass it to Viet for the retro board. You ready?
Yep. Here's the link in case y'all need it. I am going to give us 3 minutes to kind of write up some, some discussion points if you haven't already. So let me share my screen. Can you all see the timer? Okay, cool. So here we go. All right, I gotta pull this over to the other screen.
So just to confirm, we're just like working on our own for the next 3 minutes, right?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
typing.
Go
Okay,
ahead and,
just want to make sure.
If you've already written stuff up, then just show up for 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Okay. sorry, I was just finishing up my last comment here. All right. Can you all still hear me? I just want to make sure that, cool. Okay. All right, so let's go to the well column here. And does it work if the person who wrote the ticket reads it off? Does that work for y'all? Okay, cool. So let's start at the top with Tina's. Tina, take it away.
Okay, so I said, I felt like this week mentors left us a lot of space to make our own decisions about how to handle various questions and issues that came up. For me, that gave me the confidence to create my own issue to fix a problem carried over from a previous issue, which is something I would not have the confidence to do a short time ago. So that was the issue that Arniqua noticed, where the user was seeing a view that they shouldn't see. And yeah, I just kind of know, I felt like there was maybe a little shift. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but with the mentors, just kind of letting us like have our little conversations and figure things out, and then giving us like, well, as a team, you can decide this or this or this or this, but not telling us like, this is what you should do. And I really appreciated that, just having the space to make those decisions. And I really appreciate you guys being so supportive, because yeah, confidence or lack thereof with me is a big issue. It's like probably my biggest issue with making this career change. And I feel like this process and the way that you guys have been supportive has really had a positive impact on my confidence. So thank you all.
Yeah, you're welcome, for sure. I think I don't know if this is this is how Yolanda saw it, but I definitely was not engaging in the conversation until I was pinged, or if you know, because I want you all to have that like you were saying, that space to have that conversation amongst the team. So yeah, but yeah, great job on identifying an issue that you saw and kind of just taking action on it. So that was great. Yeah, Yolanda, do you want to read the next ticket?
So I wrote down, the team working on and through the bugs and talking with each other how to tackle tough situation. I think, I will have to, I'm agreeing with Viet. Just it's a tricky, situation. We don't want to overstep and like tell you guys what to, or tell you all what to do. We want you to see, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? What happens if this and that? And you all probably figure out it really depends, right? It depends on the team. It depends on the ticket. It depends on the situation. So it was really fantastic to see the conversation that was going on between all of you. It's not, and no one was saying, hey, we got to do it this way. People brought up questions like, well, what if you did this? Or what happens when, X, Y, and Z happens? So I think that was fantastic how this team is collaborating. And that's the whole point of Collab Lab, because I have to take a step back and think it through. What is the main purpose of Collab Lab? Is it to teach you all how to code, or, what else is there? And, for me, it's trying to incorporate the whole collaboration and working on it, in a team, creating a product. So I try not to be too nitpicky or, saying, hey, you need to do this or you should do that. So I am glad, to hear that Tina's like, okay, that's okay with me. Like, I want the free reign. Let me try this. Let me try that. And then for mine, I think that's totally okay. But if you ever have questions, y'all, just please just let us know as well. We're kind of the back seat. You all are driving the car, and we're just making sure, that you feel okay taking, the driver's seat position. And we're like, okay, yeah, doing good. Don't worry about it, and all is good. So but anyways, going back to what I wrote on the retro good job, everyone, on tackling those tough situations and talking about it too. Nobody stayed quiet on that. So good job.
Weston, do you want to read the next one down?
Yeah, sure. I just had really great conversation around the bug that came up. The bug in this case, well, the one that Tina brought up, but that's another issue. And then our whole issue with the array and the unintended consequence. I just really appreciated the conversation around that, and lots of people chimed in. So it was just fun to have that whole exchange and ultimately land on the same page.
Cool. And yeah, so that was the comment below that was written by me. Yeah, just I really did. Once I finally dove into the conversation, it was like I was really impressed by what the ideas and like the thoughts that you all shared about the checking and unchecking issue. Yeah, and this is like something that is very common on my team when we have when we find something that was maybe not scoped out right. It's like, do we take care of this now? Like, how do we want to handle this? So yeah, great job on everybody for doing that. Who wrote this last ticket or this last comment?
That last one was mine. I forgot to put my name
Okay,
on
no
it.
problem. You want to read it?
But I guess it kind of seconds a lot of what everyone has already said, but just the team collaborating and problem solving together to determine the best steps moving forward for applications. So just really all focusing on a common goal, which is really great.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So the one thing that I wanted to bring up last week, and I kind of missed out because I was out last week. That I saw Arniqua and Weston do this week was, there's like a little bit of a time lag. It's not that big of a deal when the teams switch off on who's sharing screens. And I think it's like, hey, if you are presenting as a team, it works out if one person just presents the screen, right? You can kind of work that out. So it's maybe something that we want to try for demos next week is like one person on the team presents and you both do will talk about the issue and just kind of go through like the ACs and code, but it's just like kind of like a little bit less. It's more seamless that way if one person kind of like drives the presentation and and you can both kind of like have talking points. I think that'll be important later on because you will be doing like a final presentation of this project with the entire team, and kind of coordinating who will present the screen and who will talk when. It's like kind of good practice to get into. Yeah. I'm going to skip over the action items for now and kind of go into the shout out for now. But we can just because like there's a big list of shout outs that I kind of want to get to. Yeah, let's start at the top. Tina, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. Yeah, just one more time. Can't say enough to Arniqua and Weston for tackling the Beast of the Week, their issue, and then also to Viet, who helped me with. I made a branch off of a branch by accident, so he walked me through fixing that yesterday during office hours.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yolanda, you want to read your ticket or your comment?
Yeah. Just to piggyback off what Tina said, it's a fantastic job, you both, Arniqua and Weston, for tackling that ticket. Like I said, it's really not easy to deal with time. So I think what you both did was just really great job. It is not easy. And I know you both spent time and, Googling and trying to figure out like how to add the logic and tackle the issue. So like huge props to you both.
And one more time, y'all really killed it on that issue, Arniqua and Weston. And then I also gave a shout out to Tina because I know she still wasn't feeling 100%, especially when we met up last week, and she really just pushed through it, gave it her all, and it just did a really good job.
Weston?
Right, we're graduating again. And then, yeah, especially on the tail end of being sick, I thought it was awesome that Tina identified her own issue and then took the initiative and tackled it. That was cool to see. And yeah, awesome job.
Yep. We've got a couple, yeah. Congrats, Mariah, for on your graduation. We're all like super happy for you, and like I know that you're relieved to probably be done for now with the program, and then like kind of starting the next steps afterwards. Sorry, who wrote
the last two were mine? Okay. Sorry, I forgot to have my name. It was the same thing. Congrats to Mariah, and then also I wanted to shout out Weston. Last week I was stuck on the finishing out the issue, and he volunteered to hop in and help me finish it out. So shout out to you for going out of your way to help me last week.
Hey, bonus Arniqua time.
Weston, do you want to read the next one here?
I lost where I was. Where are we?
Yeah, so it's actually to me. So it was, so Viet for guiding me through the dreaded merge conflict.
Ah, yes. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
and thank you for sticking with me on as we back out of the rebase, because that didn't work as we had planned. Yeah, and I also, Tina, I'm glad you're feeling better. I know that you were kind of very under the weather last week, and way to you know, I know you're trying to stay engaged, and you know, thanks for, you know, thinking about your team. But yeah, we would have also very much understood if you're like, I need to not look at a computer for a while. So yeah, thanks. Weston, are you?
I just said Yolanda for always being the best MC. I know a lot of different people present and cover different topics, but you're the connective tissue that makes it all hang together. So thanks for always doing an awesome job of that.
Yeah. And this is like, again, daytime is a bear to deal with, and it's something like we talked about it yesterday, but it's something that I do deal with like mostly every week. Timestamps are very important, especially when we're looking at like creation and, you know, just like, when was this? So, you know, think about it. If you have people who use your application, you want to know when that person created their login, right? Or when the last time they logged in was. So all of these things are, they're just like really important takeaways that you will probably see in your role as a software engineer. Yeah, so awesome job doing that. And as we go deeper into this project, I think something I brought up was that the native JavaScript datetime object is really difficult to work with. And there are libraries that can help us, can help you work with it easier. So yeah, it's something that we can bring up at a later time. And Yolanda, you want to wrap this up for us?
Yes, for me, huge shout out to Viet for just kind of helping me be that soundboard. I was tossing and turning of that final decision of how to move forward with that tricky ticket, because I do see, oh, I like that unchecked feature, but I was so worried about the consequences in the future, because we will deal with time again in this upcoming week with ticket and issues, and I didn't want that future team to be having to deal with that. But no, but thank you, Viet, for just kind of being my soundboard, and you know, just kind of talking it through and collaborating, like which direction we should go as a team. So thank you so much for being there for me when I was like, hey, can we meet up? And you're like, yeah, sure, let's meet up at this time. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. As far as the action items go, so I will leave. I'll just read them off real quick. So Weston wanted to maybe start talking about styling and what platform you want to use. Iterative, and that's something that Weston, did you want to go into that some more? Or?
Oh yeah, sure. Just as a quick aside, yeah, like I know that we're not going to do any heavy lifting there until the last couple of weeks, but just so we have a chance to talk about, like, iterate and it would be awesome if we could like have some sense of the direction we want to head in before we arrive at that point, so that we can use that time to actually do the styling instead of just having to like design it and implement it all at once. So I don't know if that was a conversation that y'all want to start in the next couple of weeks before we get to that point.
Yeah, I think it's something to put in and you know, it's good to start thinking about. Definitely don't need to like take action on it, but if you want to kind of you know, maybe just start a thread in the channel, that might be a good idea. As far as the other two action items, I would say, you know, those are like small changes, like where you're pulling the code down, like for the current time, for instance. Those are things where you're not really changing functionality so much. So whichever group is working in that file this coming week can probably take care of that stuff.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to put that on. That was me, and I wrote it there because I had this up while Andrew was saying that, and so this is just like where I recorded it.
Oh yeah, no, it's I think it's like doing it, yeah, this is totally fine. But I did want to point that out that we don't necessarily need to ticket that separately. We can kind of figure out as we go. All right. Yeah, and so with that will be the conclusion to our retro board. We have a few minutes left, and I want to try to get this in without going over time so much. So let's go over the issues for the week. Sorry, I can't remember who the teams are. You'll have to remind me. Does anybody remember?
I think it's Tina and Arniqua together, and then Weston and Mariah together.
Got it. Okay. So issue 9 for so this will be the new issue for the week. As a user, I want to be alerted when I'm entering an empty item or an item that's already on my list. Okay, so the users shouldn't be able to add an empty item to the list or add the same item twice. If they try to do this, we need to show them an error message that explains the problem. This way, we'll prevent some clutter in their lists. And the acceptance criteria is show an error message if the user tries to submit an empty item. Show an error message if the user tries to submit a new item that is identical to an existing name. For instance, if the item contains apples and the user adds apples, so the same word twice. And then the next AC is that if it's close to this, let's say capitalizations or missing or white space, that should also flag the error. And then we save the user's original input is saved in the database. And the note there, as there's a couple different ways to do this. And if you're not sure where to begin, of course, ask your mentors and ask your teammates. I'm going to read the next issue, and then we'll decide, unless somebody feels strongly about this one. Okay, I'm going to read the next one. Okay. As an item, I want my estimated next purchase date to be computed at the time of purchase, at the time my purchase is recorded in the database, so the app can learn how often I buy different items. All right. Summary. In order to advise users about when to purchase things, the app needs to be able to calculate the guess and store it in a future date. Okay. And the calculate estimate function from that module will help us know how many days in the future a purchase needs to happen. In order to use calculate estimate, we need to know how many days have passed since the time the item was last purchased. So this ticket will be dealing with date time some more. So somebody will get the pleasure of playing with date time 2 weeks in a row. The AC being get days between dates function is exported from util's dates.js and imported into API / firebase.js. The function takes 2 JavaScript dates and returns a number of days that have passed between them. The next AC is when the user purchases an item, the item's date next purchase property is calculated using the function calculate estimate and saved to the Firestore database. Next purchase date is saved as a date, not a number. So that's important to know because, so that is, I guess we are planning on saving it as a date object, not a timestamp necessarily. And there are some notes on working with Firestore dates and calculating how we calculate the differences. So yeah, those are the 2 issues. Do we have is either team? Is there a team that wants one over the other?
Tina and I will take issue number 9. Sorry, Weston.
Okay. So issue number 9 is Tina and Arniqua, and issue number 10 is Mariah and Weston. All right. Cool. All right. And with that, I think, are there any announcements anybody wants to make? Anything else that we want to cover?
Oh, just a question, since I tagged the wrong person. Who's our mentor that we're tagging for this week?
I believe it's going to be Jen.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, cool. Yolanda, is there anything else that? Do you have any announcements or any questions or comments?
Announcement. No, I can't think of anything, but I really just like hands down, everybody did a fantastic job this week. Like I said, working, I know it sounds like a broken record, but just working with time is just never easy. But I am glad that you all are supporting each other too, right? So it's not just, I know the current last week or this past week, it was Arnico and Weston. But I'm glad that everybody's just kind of trying to help when they can. And, do not be afraid to ask your, your opposite Collab partner to say, hey, I'm still stuck. Can we like all four of us meet up and talk about it? And that is a-okay in my book, because the whole point about being on a team is relying on your teammates. So it's not fair that you're just stuck and then nobody else wants to help you. That's not the point. The whole point is everybody's supporting each other, and then yeah, there's no right or wrong way. So just find a way to that problem, and keep moving forward, and keep doing what you all are doing. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. So that is kind of like my last 2 cents. Yet, anything else before I stop the recording?
No, I think yeah, I think I'm good for no comments.
All right, no, seriously, like good job, everyone. It's you guys made it. I think we're halfway through. I will stop the recording in case anyone has other questions they would like to ask. So hold on just a second.